Hey everybody, my name is Jay, and this is I Have a Samurai. Today we're going to be looking at a tournament match that I had a little while back at a place called the Jaxel Dome. For anybody who's new to Soul Calibur, the Jaxel Dome is a very old school tournament that's held in New Jersey and has been around. I think Jaxel's been running these since Soul Calibur 2. My first Soul Calibur tournament was a Jaxel Dome way back in 2009 for Soul Calibur 4. And so anybody who's new and lives kind of in the area, I strongly recommend going to one of these. It's not just necessarily a Soul Calibur tournament, but it's also kind of a party. People will prepare food for you. It's really, really great. And you have a relatively small tournament and very stiff competition. Basically, once you're past the first round, you are dealing with somebody who has won a tournament at some point in their Soul Calibur career. So you're really not getting any kind of free wins, which is exciting and daunting at the same time, I'll admit. So this time we're going to be looking at I'm playing Grow on the left against my opponent Saiyne, who is on the right. Ivy, definitely one of the characters that probably the character that I'm most scared of in this game. People will say that Grow does very well against Ivy, and to be honest, I don't really see it. I think that Grow does fine against Ivy. I think it might be like a 5-5 matchup, and I understand it on paper why people would say that Grow does well against Ivy, because Ivy is the stereotypical zoner type character, and Grow is the get in, very hyper aggressive, sticks to you, and Ivy can't get him off of her. And that kind of makes sense. But due to how defensive Soul Calibur 6 is and the amount of defensive options that characters have, coupled with the huge damage disparity, I'm not necessarily in agreement that Grow definitely beats Ivy in like a 6-4 kind of way. I'll kind of go into that as the video progresses. So one other thing that I should mention is that this is definitely not the first time that I've played against Saiyne. Anybody who has followed Soul Calibur before knows that Saiyne and I have played quite a handful of times in Soul Calibur 5. I played against him in winners finals of the first major tournament that I won, Winter Brawl, however many years ago that was. And he's a relatively newer player, at least newer than I am. Started in Soul Calibur 5. We played against each other with the same characters in Soul Calibur 6 before the game came out at Summer Jam, and I was able to win that, which was nice. But this time around, now that he has had time to deal with Ivy, and now that I've probably put a stigma in my head in terms of dealing with Ivy, so that might be affecting me as well. But let's get this started.
Range, but he uses that range to get in. So I'd say he's
So he doesn't punish that, and I don't punish the 3B, so that's one thing to note.
relatively at least.
Catches me with like a wide hitbox off of that, and this is one of the moves that I'm scared of the most. When it comes to Ivy, you're essentially dealing with two very powerful moves. You're dealing with a huge, heavy horizontal sweep that if you get hit by it, she gets half-life about off of like no meter usage, and it's a move that hits from like basically full screen. And then you also have this move, which you can't really move around. It's a grab that could potentially ring you out, pushes you all the way away, so you have to like try and get in all over again. Very frustrating. Dealing with Ivy just in those two moves is very frustrating to deal with. So I'm trying to like make him whiff, and I'm able to.
Guess the stance mix up.
So immediately I'm starting to kind of what I've talked about in previous videos is putting him in situations to see what he does. So I immediately put him in a situation where I've transitioned into a stance and he has to respect it. He has to at least try to block the B, and it looks like he's not going to. So now I'm thinking like, okay, he might not necessarily have the full amount of Grow experience that I'm going to expect in the future. I try to like put him at plus frames, see if he attacks there, and he does. I go into 4A to see if he respects that stance transition, and he doesn't. Again, those are the two stance transitions that you have to respect: A plus B, the guard break, and 4A, that sweeping horizontal. I try to go into 6A, 6AA to like pressure him even further to see if he respects that stance transition, 6A in a stance that is, and he just immediately ducks the 6A. And this is going to be a theme kind of in this overall video, or at least playing against Saiyne, is that the ducks that he has are very well timed and can especially punish it. Like the more time he gets understanding Grow, I think he's going to do it more and more often, because a lot of his horizontals start off as highs. So you can really get a duck in there, and especially if you have a move like this that does a good amount of damage off of a duck, you might as well just keep doing it.
Oh, but random
What am I really going to punish you with? A 6BB? And then you have to guess? That's not like the most damaging thing in the world.
Amazing block.
So I thought that he was going to back up there, which is why I did the 1K, and he ended up just shoving a move into my face, and that's why I lost there. So again, I'm trying to make him whiff, and I end up doing so. I catch the duck with the BB, but again, that's kind of like what I was talking about. It's like it's not really like he's getting a whole lot of damage for that, that block or that duck. Catches me with a counter CE, which is something that I kind of expected, and I wasn't all that bothered by it. It's kind of what I expected, like I said, after I was punishing him and I was pressuring him, and I didn't really have a way to make like a fast guard break happen, so I would have like had to have just stopped and blocked it, which I don't necessarily want to do at that point. Unfortunately, I'm a little late on the whiff punish there because, again, I see that movie coming out, and so I get very scared. So I try to go into soul charge stuff. You guys have seen me do this before. And he ends up pressuring me with that move there, which is something that I really didn't expect at all. Like, most people are going to tend to respect those kinds of guard breaks, but now that I think about it, really like just now, that's when he did the CE before. He recognizes that I'm kind of going for a slower type thing after the B plus K in stance. So maybe that's something that I have to change of my style. I remember feeling very frustrated when that happened, where I was like, really? He's going to press buttons there? A slow button at that? But it actually kind of makes sense, considering the fact that I went for something slow and he hit me with the counter CE earlier in the round. I did a 4-4 B plus K. Surely I meant something else. I'm not really sure what it was. Not the biggest punish in the world, but definitely the most frustrating punish in the world. I try to move away, but I'm a little bit bad in terms of like spacing out Ivy, and this is arguably like what you shouldn't be doing against Ivy. When it comes to spacing and even just trying to like compete with her at a mid-range, not even just for Grow, but it's just unnecessary to do with virtually any character. You have to rush forward. Like treat it like a 2D game. There's no real, like, you can really get hurt if you're trying to like move around and try to make her whiff. The range is gigantic, and the amount of damage that she can get off of a lethal hit when she has like the easiest lethal hits to get in the game, it's just not worth it. Just go in and try to pressure her. I think it's a much better idea. So he goes for the A when I go for the K. I'm sure I've talked about it before. When you're playing against Grow, you don't want to give him the K because that gives him the full combo. And something that I started implementing a lot more after this tournament is doing reversal edge and then guarding. So not very good if the person does a B, but at the same time, so if I'm playing Grow and I think my opponent knows how to play against Grow, they're going to want to do A to beat my K, right? Kind of like what I was talking about before. And if I block the A, then it can actually get me into a relatively good frame situation. And if I'm the one who initiated it, that means I get more meter, which means I get more soul charge, which means I can be crazier more often, right? And it also just allows me to be at relatively good frame positions without real any kind of risk. Because if he mashes B and then we kind of like clash again, I was the initiator, so I can kind of like do something more. But I end up getting caught, which is unfortunate. So let's see if I can get in. I activate soul charge, and I'm going to try to like do some crazy stuff. Doesn't block the 1 AK, he blocks the 3B, and then he goes for the jump to beat out the AK. Now, the commentator got very excited with that jump, saying that it was like a really like hard read and everything, but if you think about it, the Ivy had a huge amount of life, and this is kind of like what I keep going over, is that the defensive options in this game are so strong that there's no real reason to think that that's even that strong of a read, right? Because she has so much life, she can take those kinds of bets, knowing that, so what am I going to hit her with, right? 6-6B, and she's in the air, so it's going to be like this weird awkward hit, and then you're probably going to be able to like get up and jab me with a 2A or make me deal with like a turnaround grab or something, because then it creates like this weird awkward rolling situation where I can't necessarily throw out a meaty attack to keep her from waking up and pressing buttons. So it's not as impressive of a read as I think. It's good that he had the presence of mind to like keep up with those options and he wasn't hesitating, but at the same time, like, I understand that option entirely. I think it makes sense. I would have expected like a, just a random duck as well. I get lucky with the 6-6BB doing some sort of like a weird whiffing kind of thing, which happens a lot more than I would like. Got to get back in. This is kind of what I was talking about. I was lucky that the spacing was a little bit off This is one other thing that I want to mention, and this is just advice for Soul Calibur in general. You saw that he whiffed the wall rising. He did a duck into a wall rising B, and I stepped it, right? Now, I just didn't have the presence of mind to do anything else, but something that I always tell people, and people always tend to forget, when your opponent has whiffed something, the last thing you want to do is go for a grab. Main reason is because that is the only thing that they can defend themselves against at this point. Even if it's as much as like, I ran up and did a 2A, at least I got some of my guaranteed damage. What I could have done is just like a raw 3B and got like a combo, but I just didn't have the I didn't think he was going to whiff something so big, so I just wasn't ready for it, and I immediately went for a grab, and I see a lot of people doing that, and that's a really bad idea. The one thing you don't want to do is go for a grab in that situation, because it's the one thing that they can defend themselves against. So I'm going to go for some like these lows again, because it tended to work. I was really surprised that second hit of the AA worked. And he throws out a random reversal edge, and he resets the position again. Not to mention I'm kind of in a bad situation. Kind of what I was talking about, I think, in my last video, or the second to last video. When you have a reversal edge situation, you are not the one that initiated. I strongly recommend doing maybe guard, but also movement options for your second one. When you clash the first time, because chances are you're going to lose, so you might as well bet big, and you get up, you end up getting rewarded like this from time to time, and isn't that nice? Yeah. Starts fighting against me, so I continue to try to like make him whiff. I guess I wasn't expecting him to do the wall rising B there, because the 1A itself is punishable, though not very heavily punishable from Ivy. Yeah, I definitely deserved all that damage. I tried to, you saw that he knocked me out of Soul Charge there, and so I kind of do a little bit of an impatient thing and go for 6 BB. I'm happy that I get the reversal edge, though. So I have to be worried about like the CE, and I remember feeling very frustrated when that happened, because I thought that I had spaced it out enough to where I wouldn't get hit by that. But again, now that I think about it, it's just not a good idea to try and back up against Ivy. Even though he has a CE, I have to just take a bet. Either I'm going to 100% block, or potentially do like a slow guard break, which means that I lose to a mash if Ivy gets up, or I try to beat the mash with like a 3B or something. In fact, 3B might have been a good idea there. 1, because Saiyne is ducking a lot, and 2, because I'm not necessarily convinced that he has the punishes he needs against Grow. So maybe that would have been a good idea. So I'm going in with the 1-way. You can kind of tell that I'm getting frustrated. I think he beat like a 2A there off the clash. There I tried to go into stance to try and like sidestep transition, which can sometimes beat reversal edge. It didn't really work out that time, though. I don't think it would have worked out had I gotten what I wanted either. So I'm trying to like wait out the Soul Charge as much as I can into a 6-6 BB. So I could have probably gotten a stance BB when he got hit by the 6A plus B, but I didn't end up getting it. Again, I tried to step it, so I tried to take this opportunity, but he soul charges, so I had to try and respect him. I tried to disrespect it by going into the 1A, but he doesn't fall for like the frame advantage type stuff. And I kind of do like the same very cookie cutter kind of Grow mix up stuff there. I think I was essentially trying to take advantage of the fact that he wanted to seal that round as soon as possible, because I was in kind of like a bad stage situation. So the fact that I activated Soul Charge doesn't necessarily phase him. So I'm trying to punish him for that, which is what ended up happening. Catches me with AA, and I try to do like the back turn B plus K, which has deceptively good range. Not to mention obviously like pretty good damage. So a lot of people get hit by that. He catches the punish off of the stance A, which I deserve. I ducked the grab, but I didn't end up doing anything with it. I could have done... Normally when I duck a grab, I go for 6 BB into stance, but not even that is all that great. Somebody like Olganan's Wrath will do like 6A plus B, which is a lot better. I wish that I had those kinds of reactions. So I'm trying to like use the stage positioning. There is a very typical follow-up from Ivy when she's in Soul Charge. I have to get used to the idea of just like GIing it the second that I see the first attack, or at the very least start blocking it. It's just something that I'm not used to yet. And I ducked because I thought it was going to be like a 2-2K or something like that.
But now
So we're at the last round, and at this point, so I go for a punishable move, which is very lightly punishable, immediately into Soul Charge, because I have another one. So presumably, that's a very good whip punish. It's unfortunate that it didn't work out for him, but that it was clear that he was looking for that exactly. So I immediately go into Soul Charge again because the first one didn't do anything, but I also have a blinking red guard, so I'm hoping to like try and do something with that. I'm surprised that, the 6BB didn't punish there. So he catches me with that wall rising B again, which is very unfortunate. So I'm trying to like, just use the guard pressure, and you might remember me talking about the 6-6BB poor tracking that he has. This is one of the reasons why it's very tough, because I essentially kind of have to do 6-6BB in order to like have a true meaty attack, meaning that he won't be able to get up and just mash buttons on me. But it could potentially lose you an entire tournament set, just because, I mean, it's not to say that I would have guaranteed won it, but I was definitely in a pretty solid position, and then the game just kind of screwed me with the tracking on 6-6BB. So to kind of sum up, like, I definitely don't have what I need to when it comes to fighting against Ivy. I don't necessarily capitalize on the punishes that I have, and I'm trying to play a little bit too much of a spacing game against Ivy. And this isn't just bad for Grow because his spacing isn't all that good, but because it's just not good to space against Ivy. Ivy's long range is significantly superior, and she gets incredibly weaker when you're right in front of her face. She's forced to use strings that end up being in highs, so you're able to duck them and continue punishes and continue pressure. But at the same time, I'm not, again, necessarily convinced that Grow definitely beats Ivy, because the damage disparity is there. You're talking about a character that can do half-life off of a safe move from full screen for no meter into Oki pressure, right? So she'd get significantly higher damage than all the things that I could do, which makes sense. A zoner should do more damage than a character like Grow. But the idea is that Grow builds up momentum and is constantly hitting you with smaller attacks to the point where like you can't get him off of you, right? But that's definitely, you can kind of tell it, this match exemplifies that, like, he's using reversal edge, he's using random ducks, random jumps, and any time that he's in a bad situation, he could also soul charge to complete, or a counter CE to completely get rid of me. These are all incredibly solid defensive options that he has access to almost always. Not so much with, like, the ones that cost a full bar of meter, but that's going to happen. You're going to get that bar of meter if I'm going to pressure you, right? So I don't really see, I get a lot of guff because I don't necessarily think that Grow is one of the most powerful characters in the game, which a lot of people do. I guess the reason is because I just don't necessarily think a character archetype like Grow can do very well against a huge damage disparity plus huge, like, positive defensive options that characters have. So, like, a character like Ivy, like you saw here, can do random ducks, random jumps, knowing that if they're right once, it equals the equivalent to, like, me being right 3 times. I don't see how a character like Grow kind of keeps up with that. Maybe I'm just not good enough. Maybe I just don't understand what Grow is supposed to do in these positions, and I just feel lost. So, this is going to be the last video I'm going to do with Grow for a while. I'm going to start playing a new character. It's a character that I've been playing as a secondary for a good amount of time, to see if I can maybe come up with either a different understanding of the game, or at least until other Grow players can kind of show me what I'm supposed to be doing. Because right now, against like Ivy, Siegfried, Nightmare, Mina, these slower characters that can kill me in 3 hits, and can just kind of like span, like, just cycle through a wheel of strong defensive options. I don't really know how Grow beats that, other than getting really lucky, because you can't take care of 5 or 6 strong defensive options all the time, right? But hopefully I'm able to figure it out, and hopefully you guys will be with me when I do. So I'll see you guys next time. All right, thanks very much.